An O'Reilly Auto Parts gift card is the perfect gift for that hard-to-buy-for person. Give the gift of convenience from O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Now, back to the Larry Kudlow Show.
So, now the question is, are we going to all buy condominiums in Greenland with a beautiful ocean view? Or do we want to take back the Panama Canal? Or do we really want Canada as the 51st state? We're waiting on Ambassador Robert O'Brien, former National Security Advisor and Chairman of American Global Strategies. I just want to say while we're waiting for Robert O'Brien, I want to start with Panama because you've got a situation down there, and I don't know if most Americans understand this, but it isn't just taking back the Panama Canal. What's happened here is the influence of China, probably our principal adversary on the world scene. China's influence, which starts in the Panama Canal and then trickles right down through Latin America, through South America. And as I understand it, China is operating the locks of the canal, the one on the Pacific and the one on the Atlantic. That can't be a good thing. And China's old Belt and Road Initiative has gone into a number of the Latin American countries, South American countries. And so it's not a question of just taking the canal back. It's why during the Biden years did the United States allow China into the neutral zone of Panama and basically running it? And why have we allowed, with almost no opposition, China to develop such an important sphere of influence throughout South America? I mean, this is a major, major threat. The other part is if we go to Greenland. Now, Mr. Trump looked at Greenland in his first term. I was one of several who suggested that it might be a good idea if the United States not so much taken over Greenland, but essentially operated Greenland. Denmark operates Greenland. Denmark is sort of like the manager of Greenland. Greenland's a very small populous country, although it's a gigantic landmass. But here, too, you have Chinese influence and Russian influence in Greenland and up in the whole Arctic region, where, among other things, for example, it's rich in minerals and rare earths and things that we don't want to lose any control of. So these are the issues. I think Mr. Trump is trolling Canada, but there, too, Canada has got to do a lot more in terms of guarding their border. I mean, I saw numbers in the Canadian discussion in terms of terrorism, for example. A lot have come through the northern border. Justin Trudeau, whom I happen to know personally from my government service earlier, he claims they're going to do what they can, or he claims they're going to do more what they can. He's basically a lame duck prime minister. He has an approval rating in the 20s. Probably there's a very good chance that conservative Pierre Poilievre is going to take over. He's from the western part of Canada. I always think of the western part of Canada with oil and so forth, more like, Texas in the Sun Belt than it is the eastern part of Canada, which tends to be where more socialism or left-wing politics takes place. But I think, Trump is mocking Canada, but we can do better. I know he's mentioned running Wayne Gretzky. Again, I think that's sort of trolling Trudeau, if you will. But all these areas, the United States has to have an America First policy. I think we finally found O'Brien someplace. Let me hear your voice. Happy New Year. Merry Christmas, O'Brien.
Merry Christmas, Larry.
Late to the party. All right. So, Trump is in his own way, negotiating and raising important issues, I'm saying, with respect to the Panama Canal and Latin America, where China has made it a sphere of influence. And, we talked about Greenland in the first term, which has part of Russia would like a piece of it, China would like a piece of it. There are rare earths. There's, all kinds of strategic issues that are going on in the Arctic region. I mean, what do you make of all this? Trump is asserting himself, it seems to me.
Well, Trump is doing something that's actually very traditional, Larry. It's the Monroe Doctrine. It's the idea that the Western Hemisphere is the sphere of influence of the United States of America. And it's our job to guarantee the sovereignty and the independence of the countries that are here. And so you take, for example, Panama, and we've been talking about this for years. President Trump talked about it. The Biden people talk about Chinese influence, but they don't do anything about it. So we now have 38,000 Chinese operating the Panama Canal. 78% of our trade, the canal trade, goes to America or comes from America. It's a strategic asset for the United States. Our old boss from the old days, Ronald Reagan, was against the Panama Canal Treaty in 1976 when Carter gave it away. The canal was built by America. It was on American territory, and we handed it off to the Panamanians. And the deal was that the Panamanians would keep it safe for America. Now they've got it being run by the Chinese, and they're overcharging for American shipping. And President Trump has said enough is enough. There are provisions in the treaty that if the Panamanians violate it, and certainly giving it over to the Chinese, which is essentially what's happened, is a violation of the treaty, then the canal goes back to America. So he's giving the Panamanians an option. Abide by the treaty. Keep the Chinese out. Don't overcharge American shippers, and you can keep the canal. If you don't, we're going to come take it back. It's about time someone is standing up for American interests in this hemisphere.
What's your take on this Panamanian president, Jose Raul Molino? Where are his allegiances? Where are his alliances?
If you're a facilities manager at a university, you know students rely on the cafeteria for breakfast, lunch, dinner, and the occasional late-night snack. So when a dishwasher breaks down and dirty plates pile up, the mess hall can turn messy in the blink of an eye. Enter Grainger. With over 1 million industrial-grade products and fast delivery, the product you need now is never far away. So you can turn that dishwasher back into a lean, clean washing machine. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
Well, look, I think the Panamanians have been generally pro-American, and they've all got connections to America. We were in the Canal Zone for many years, almost 75 years, and counting. And there are a lot of American connections to Panama. They're generally a good ally, but the Chinese have come in with buckets of money, and the U.S. has neglected, especially during the Biden years, has totally neglected the Panamanians. The Chinese have shown up with huge chunks of cash for these guys. And so it's time to counteract that. It's time to put America first, and it's time to reassert our interest in the region. And that goes for Greenland, too, Larry. The Danes finally, after President Trump, and this is such an extraordinary transition, isn't it? He's acting like the president, and Biden's nowhere to be seen. President Trump came out and said he renewed his request to buy Greenland because he said it's critical to American sovereignty. If the Danes aren't going to defend it, we can't have this big ungoverned space in the Arctic. We can't cede that to the Chinese and Russians, as you pointed out in your opening, Larry. And so the Danes came out and said, well, we're going to send another dog sled team of soldiers, and we're going to send 2 drones and two inspection ships. Well, that's nice, but the dog sled team's not going to counteract a Russian submarine or Soviet airborne troops. What they need to do is put infantry on the ground. They need to put anti-aircraft and anti-drone missiles on the ground. They need to put anti-ship missiles on the ground, and then they need to send a Danish frigate over there. The Danes are very capable. Send a warship. So if they're not willing to defend Greenland, Trump has said, "I'll defend Greenland because it's important to American interests. We're not going to have an ungoverned space that the Russians and Chinese can have." So the Danes are waking up. They made an initial step, and we love the dog sled team. But we need more than a dog sled team to defend Greenland.
A dog sled team. I love that. They got to do better than that. Why don't we have a plebiscite? Didn't the Prime Minister, the Danish Prime... No, it was the Danish Queen that said we should have a plebiscite for Greenland.
Well, look, there is some precedent for that. I mean, the Inuits and the native people of Greenland are very closely connected to the Alaskan people.
Right. Anyway, Robert O'Brien, thanks. Sorry you're late. Anyway, folks, we're going to take a break. On this side of the break, we're going to do some stock market work.